Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
Hi, guys.
Hi. So good to see all of you.
I just never get it right. Tonight I'm wearing black and you're in floral. I'm constantly feeling left out here.
You swim against the tide, Shoshana.
Oh, goodness me. How was your week, everyone?
Awesome.
Great.
And your weekend?
Very full of gratitude.
All right, Yafa, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us something interesting you did today, and we'll start off with you.
You think I do interesting things? I'm a mother. Okay, you know what? Okay. Hi, my name is Yafa Palti. Today I did 2 live streams. I'm so boring. I'm really trying to think. What did I do that was interesting today? This is I did laundry.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I am.
Don't worry, we'll move on.
Live vicariously through somebody else right now for a few minutes.
Adina, tell us what you did today and introduce yourself.
Oh, please, please, please. Okay, first of all, it's easier to introduce myself than to tell you what my schedule was like today because it was highly uneventful. But I will tell you, I spent quality time with my children, which is so precious for me. After Shabbos, we spend time focusing in, and Sunday is the time where we can focus outwards and explore and go swimming and things like that. So that was my day today.
Like in the ocean swimming?
Sorry?
In the ocean?
No, we swam in a pool.
You going?
Northerners out there, but I'll just introduce you. My name is Adina Stellerman, and I am the co-founder of Yehudi in Florida and senior educator for Partners in Torah International. And I'm so grateful to be here on the 3rd episode of Sold Live and Real. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Okay, Jackie, welcome. Tell us about you. How was your day? Tell us who you are.
Yeah, I went to the beach. It was awesome. We took out my puppy to the beach, and it was his 3rd time ever at the beach. You can't believe he's allowed to dig nonstop. It's amazing. Just like the beach just enlivens you. It just makes you feel, I don't know, something about the beach. I guess I grew up on the beach in Australia, and I just love it. It just refreshes me. So I'm grateful. I am Jackie Glazer, and I am Olami's Director of Leadership Development. I'm the founder of Sold and the former Today Show psychologist from Australia. So
Woo-hoo. Okay. So I'm a little bit biased. There's a reason why I asked you all what you did today. So I am Shoshana Kay. I'm the regional director of Moor Philadelphia. And why did I ask you? Just to point out, like, I'm super mommy or something, but then I ruined it all. Me and my kids went to the American Dream Mall. And it was so amazing. We went ice skating. There's like a water park there. There's Nickelodeon amusement park. There's even snow skiing. And then we had this amazing bonding experience of a day. And then I ruined it all in the last 5 minutes of the night. Because I'm like, hurry, the show. I've got to get to the show. So I had an awesome day with my kids today. But then the last few minutes, I'm like, yikes. But you know what we're going to be speaking about? We are going to be speaking about today, which is so perfect because it ties in exactly to what we finished off last week. Is my screen doing something weird? Uh-oh. Okay, let's gonna just fix it right here and there. Okay. What we're going to be speaking about today is actually beauty and Judaism's view on beauty and our self-perception of beauty and how Judaism views the external self and self-care and all of these things. And you know what? I was a little bit worried to take my teen daughter today to American Dream because I pictured that there would be all these supermodel, stunning women in very minimal clothing. And she hasn't really been exposed to so many things like this. And I was so impressed when we went to the mall. It was so beautiful. And what was so beautiful about it is that all throughout the mall, it had these magnificent murals of different shapes and different animals and different things. And you did not see anything. You didn't see even people, but these gorgeous, stunning posters. And I thought about I'm so grateful that today we don't have to start off. She didn't have to start off getting her self-perception based on what media and society says is what it means to be a magnificent woman. So I wanted to start off tonight discussing that, ladies, with you. Let's look at some statistics, first of all, about beauty and America's view on beauty and women's view on beauty before we get started. I'm waiting for my people to pull up my slide. Okay, well, until the slide comes up, let's go on to the next thing. Have you ladies heard of that? Oh, here it is. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So statistics, $60 billion are spent every year on fashion, diet, plastic surgery industries that are profiting from our desire to be more externally beautiful. 53% are 13 years old of such a thing. 53% of 13-year-olds are unhappy. American girls are unhappy with their bodies. That is crazy. 1 in 2 13-year-old girls are unhappy with their bodies. And by the age of 17, 78%, in only 4 years, these numbers jump dramatically. 78% of girls, that's over 3/4 of girls are unhappy with their body. So what does Judaism say, first of all, about beauty and Judaism? You know, it's interesting because when we are described, we have Hanukkah coming up, and then we're going to have Purim coming up. But when we describe Esther Amalka, she's described, Queen Esther, she's described as green. Now, I don't know about you ladies, but I wouldn't exactly, look at Adina's magnificent light complexion. I wouldn't exactly call her green. Or there's Jackie with like a little bit of a tan look, and Yafa, her beautiful face. I wouldn't describe, you're all very beautiful. I wouldn't describe any of you as green. But the sages describe Esther Amalka as one of the most beautiful women, and she was green. And what's so interesting is the year before, the queens, the young princesses had to go before the king to see if they were the worthy one of being his queen. They had an entire year to anoint themselves, put on the finest makeups, take care of themselves, eat well, exercise. And Esther Amalka wanted nothing to do with that. And yet, when she stood in front of Ahasuerus, King Ahasuerus, he thought she was the most beautiful one. So what is it? What was this beauty that he saw? So let's start off tonight, ladies, discussing what is beauty, what is Judaism's view of beauty, and how do we tie in the statistics that we just discussed and this idea and this notion of beauty? Who would like to start?
I'll do that. Jackie, you can take it over. You're the therapist here, and I feel like you have such experience in this domain, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because I looked at those statistics and I'm trying to pick myself up from the floor, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, and I think that I relate to it personally because I grew up with like zero Jewish understanding in my life. My father was a Holocaust survivor, so we were as far away as possible from Judaism. So I grew up just going along with society's norms and values, which is all about the body, right? And even more so today than when I was young. And then I learned about Judaism and Jewish views and all of that when I was 30 plus. So I felt the difference between not having Jewish understanding at all and then having Jewish understanding. And that it was so different because it gave it context, I think. And I think that my understanding now of the Jewish view of beauty is that the body is a temple. Like the whole idea of everyone focusing on the body and that it's great and whatever is true. It is. It's a temple. It's a gift. You know, it's unbelievable. We say my body. You know, my body. So who's the my? So even in the phrase my body, it's alluding to the fact that even subconsciously, speaking of psychobabble, even subconsciously, we actually resonate and know that we're not totally our body, but the body's really important, that we're more than our body. And I think that that's the Jewish view of beauty, is that the body is a temple for the soul, for a higher part of us that sits in the body, so to speak. And that the body, when we connect those two together, so of course we have to look after the body. In fact, it says in the Torah, lishmor es nafshecha, right? To guard, we have to guard. There's a specific idea to guard our bodies, that to take care of them. That's why the whole fad of looking at our body and taking care of our body is not wrong. It's right, because it's very, very important. However, it's not the whole picture, is my understanding. It's like there's so much more to us than the body, that if I over-identify with the body, so then I'm going to somehow feel limited or, God forbid, degraded because I'm defining my whole self by that body. But the real beauty is when I actually have the right connection between my body and my soul, and I don't give my self-definition away to something external to define me. I don't give my power away to society, to whatever norms have been put on me as in to define me just by my body. And when I take that back for myself and say I'm more than a body, I'm also a soul, I have to take care of my body, but there's so much more to me. And I define for myself internally. So that's where I see truly beautiful people shine with that type of connection. I hope that.
That's perfect, Jackie. So then, Adina, Yafa, tell me, where does this phenomenon come from then?
You know, I think that there are two different sections of our body. There's the face, which very much represents the soul. And then there's the everything below the face, which is so much, it's more easily known to be objectified. So I wonder if we should guide the conversation to the severe unhealthy weight control behaviors that we see in today's society, whether it's, you know, immense amounts of money being poured into. I'm from Miami Beach, so you're talking to someone who lives in a place where on every single block there's a therapist, on every other block there's a plastic surgeon. Every single one of my friends is doing Botox of some sort. So this is like a culture that's very much right, Yafa. It's like
in the city.
Yeah, and it's not to knock these industries necessarily, because there's a place for them, that's for sure. But I'm wondering, at what point do we cut up our bodies and put them back together? And what point are we going to be satisfied and happy if that is the ultimate goal in all of these activities? Because ultimately, aren't we trying to just be happier?
Well, it's interesting.
Balance. I really think it's really all about balance. You know, we're both bodies and souls. They're both our reality. You know, we have a body, we know that we're a soul, and everybody knows that we're more than just a body. You know, really most people in the world would admit to that. And I think that really, it really boils down to finding that healthy balance between everything. Is the body, if we're going to sit here and talk about how important the soul is and how that's the essence of who we are, and then what purpose does the body serve? If really all we are is soul, and we're just spiritual beings, then why do we have a body? And is there any purpose to the body? Is it important at all? And that's really where the balance comes in. The body is extremely important. The body houses the soul. The soul, which is the piece of God that's inside of us, the divinity in us, lives inside the body. The body has to be really taken care of well. The body has to be healthy and beautiful. And this is all part of Torah, that we have to take care of our bodies. But what's the balance? So the balance is that to have this understanding that the importance of the body is limited, but in its relationship to the soul. Is the body more important? Are we spending more time on the body than the soul? Or do we still recognize that the soul is really who we are, and therefore we have to take care of the body? It's like this guy I know, you know, in Israel, the taxi drivers have the fanciest cars you've ever seen, right? Even Adina, even in Miami, right? The fanciest cars. Israel, you go to Israel, those are all taxi drivers, all right? So this Israeli taxi driver gets his brand new Mercedes, and he was so proud of it. And he just spent like all of his day cleaning it and polishing and inside and outside. He spends till 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon polishing his car. And he doesn't work. He gets no clients, right? The day is over. So is it important to take care of your car? Is it important that your car is polished and clean and shining? It's very important. But when it gets to the point where the car becomes more important than the work, then you already missed the point. And that's really the relationship between the body and the soul.
I think if you wanted to sum it up, it's like to view your body as an instrument for your life, not as an ornament for others. And if you always look at it as an instrument, the world is your oyster. You can achieve the most amazing things when you see your body as an instrument to share, to be good to others, to connect to God, to connect to your family members, to connect to yourself. But at what point in time, I think Shoshana's question was like, how did this happen? How did it happen that we've come to obsess to the point that the very thing that's supposed to give us so much pleasure and happiness gives us so much pain and such joy in our lives? That's what I'd love to get.
You know, I think it's cultural. It's cultural, and it's also very timely, because if you look throughout the generations, people had related to their bodies based on what was available to them then, what was popular then. So for example, whenever there is an abundance of food, then being skinny, being thin is the goal. When food was scarce, being fat was the goal. And that's what everybody wanted to be. And I think that right now we live in abundance. And therefore right now, The goal is to be as thin as possible, is kind of to disappear.
I love that though, Adina. I'm an instrument, not an ornament. That's like going on my Instagram post. That is like new Instagram post. That's awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where did Shoshana go?
Disappear.
I literally said the words that today we want to disappear, and Shoshana was gone.
Let's take a self-assessment test for our crowd.
Yes, let's do that.
Because I feel like when all of us, if we look in the mirror first, then maybe we'll be able to get to know each other a little bit more. So self-assessment test, number one, if you could make it a little bit bigger for me. When you're looking in a mirror, what's the number one thing that's constantly running through your head? When you're looking in a mirror, what's the number one thing that's constantly running through your head? Number two, I wear clothes based more on how I think they make my body appear rather than for comfort. Or number three, why do you think eating disorders are on the rise for both men and women? Can I tell you something really interesting? My son, when he was younger, he once told me, he's like, Mommy, I find it to be so bizarre that women put a stick under their shoe and they claim that it's beautiful. And essentially he was challenging, that was almost like lifting the veil of, not to say that I don't enjoy a good pair of high heels, but he was lifting the veil of social conditioning of beauty and saying, like, aren't you uncomfortable? Who came up with this idea to stick a stick under your shoe and say that it's something more beautiful? That because I happen to be quite small, I'm 5'1", that for some reason I should be happier about myself. I should be more confident about myself. I should feel more worthwhile in this world because I'm a few inches taller.
Well, come on, Adina. We know that the higher the heel, the closer to God.
It's interesting that you say that. What do you ladies think of this? That the Hebrew name for the word face, the Hebrew word for face is panim. And panim shares the same root as the word panemius, which means my internal self. But the word face really comes from the Greek word that shares the same meaning as facade. Does our face represent something that is a facade, is an external manifestation of something that isn't necessarily real inside? Or is our face really, like Adina said, a representation of something internally? And is really our face just a magnificent, or our body even so, more so, just a magnificent encasing for this deeper essence that lies inside? And if so, what is that deeper essence? And why do we work so hard if there's so many aspects to us, so many layers, so much beauty to each and every one of us, like a diamond that just needs the right lighting shined on it so that all the different rays can shine out? What is it that we're trying to give off to the world? And what limits us in our external self from being this magnificent shining diamond? What do you ladies think?
You're asking what blocks us?
Yeah.
From being that shining diamond?
What stops us from being this? For most women today, it can't be just about my external self. So what's stopping us from being these magnificent women that we really are?
Well, I think that sometimes diamonds get dirty. And I think that for some reason today, we don't realize that a dirty diamond is still a diamond. Just has an extra adjective, and you just clean it off and you're still that beautiful shining diamond. And we start defining ourselves by the dirt on the diamond instead of by the diamond itself. And once we lose focus of who we actually are inside, and then everything becomes externally focused. And once we're not, and the external is not the truth, the internal is the truth. And once we're not focused on the truth, then we can't live in completion. We're automatically living in lack. And I think that this is what's happening, that we live in a society, again, as I said before, right now we're living in abundance. And when we live in abundance, external abundance, then we're very often living with lack inside because we are in consumerism society. So we're living in lack and we're not really understanding who we are inside. We just define ourselves by the outside. You know, I lost 55 pounds about 4 years ago. And after I lost this weight, a lot of the people who were like leaders in this program kept asking me, you need to come on our live streams, and you need to talk and show people your before and after, post your before and after photos. And they were so into me, my photos, and talking about my weight loss journey and how I felt before and how I feel after. And I kept telling them, no, I don't want to do that, because my weight loss journey, whatever that meant, was not a definition of who I am. Yeah, I was heavier before. I was overweight. I wasn't healthy before. I lost that weight. I'm healthy now. The definition of myself did not change just because my weight went up or down. And if I'm going to be the before picture and the after picture, I'm showing a difference of who I am. There's no difference between who I am. My self-esteem wasn't low before, and it's not higher after. I am who I am. My body does not affect who I actually am. But when we put so much focus on the body, and this is my opinion, I'd love to hear what you guys think, but I feel like, you know how today there is a very big movement, the body positivity movement, which I know some people really think is positive, and maybe they're doing some good. I'm sure they're doing some good. But personally, I don't think that body positivity movement is a good movement necessarily, because it still puts the focus on the body. It's not about the body. It's still telling you whether you're skinny, you know, whether you're big, small, short, tall, short, fat, skinny. None of that is the definition of who we are. It's all external to us. But the more focus we put on it, the more externally we live, the more internally we feel a lack. And that's when this whole cycle starts to begin with an unhealthy view of ourselves. Because if we're viewing ourselves by the outside, we will never, ever be enough. We're always comparing ourselves to other people. We're never going to be good enough. So that's what I think.
What you said, Catherine. Thank you for sharing. So, you know, it's interesting. My first diet, I was taken to Weight Watchers when I was 10 years old. Can you imagine, like 10 years old? I was always like a kind of chubby little girl, and 10 years old. So yes, Adina, isn't that crazy?
Terrible.
And literally, I have been defined, as a Jewish woman, I've been defined by my external self. And to this day, I still fight these things. You know, it's such a challenge. So I want to show you what you ladies, I want to discuss the next segment here. Dove put out a whole campaign. Adina, Jackie, you're familiar with this campaign, yes? Can you explain us the campaign, and then we'll show a little bit of a video about what Dove was trying to do and the whole purpose behind it.
Dove was revealing the illusion, was peeling back that illusion of what we all see all the time, these manicures and coiffed and photoshopped images that we think is reality, and then we constantly, consciously or subconsciously, compare ourselves to. And then when we look at ourselves, we think, oh, I look so fat, I look so ugly, I look so, because we're constantly comparing ourselves to this, again, external definition of what beauty is. And then God bless Dove, because they literally had the guts to reveal behind this whole industry that is really damaging so many millions of women what really goes on. And you see the before picture of this woman who looks beautiful and normal and whole and healthy, and then you see what they've turned her into.
Wait,
and
she was so beautiful. She was kind of like a regular lady, and then
regular lady, but like normal. And then she turns into this glamazon that we think.
Let's put up the video.
Let's just watch.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
it's so poignant and so unbelievable. What do you think of that, Adina?
You know where my head went? It took me back because we were talking about how it lifted the veil. That's what Jackie said. The word imagination in Hebrew steps onto the stage of humanity well in the beginning. The word dimion came when Adam and Eve ate from the tree. And I don't think it was an accident that it had to do with food. And I don't think it was an accident that subsequently they felt the urge and the need to put on clothes. Because I think that there's something deeply embedded within the human psyche that unfortunately allows us to expand our minds to the point that we attach ourselves with such false notions so deeply, Shoshana, so deeply to the point that it hurts ourselves, our relationships, and it hurts our happiness, which is what we're doing here. Just if we have a nose that has a bump in it, that's it.
So
when we had the self-assessment test, Shoshana, and you know, I was looking at it, I was thinking of myself as a little girl. This is a live and real show, so I have to be real. I remember looking at the mirror when I was little and thinking if only I could get a nose job. I remember that every time I looked in the mirror, that was the first thing that came into my head. And I remember my bubby always making comments to me because she was a Holocaust survivor, as were all three of my other grandparents. Food was an important thing in our home. Food was something that my grandparents held very dear to them because they were starving, during the war, even before the war. And my grandmother always used to say that all the foods that she wouldn't even be able to dream of eating, let alone think about her body type, dream of eating, today we have to pay people to forbid us from eating them, encourage us not to touch these foods at all. And she would laugh at me. She would say, "You're so beautiful and you're so healthy. Why are you obsessively thinking about these things?" And it breaks my heart. Like when you said about 10 years old, I have a 10-year-old girl, a little Ita, and she's gorgeous. But even she has asked me, "Mommy, am I skinny?" Where'd you get that from?
Right.
Where'd you get that from?
My daughter, I'm sure. It's so crazy because one of my daughters is a very, very picky eater. So when she goes to camp, because eating disorders are so prevalent, I always tell the camp, she does not have an eating disorder, but she has disordered eating. And, I got me thinking to me as a child, like, I had such disordered eating. As a 10-year-old girl, here I was attempting to do whatever I could to lose like the baby fat that's still here, because this is my face. I have a round face. And I see in my girls, even they're thin and beautiful, and they have my round face. And I was told as a young girl, 10, 11, 12, "You're so beautiful. If only you lost 10 pounds, you would be even prettier." Like, this was my whole life. And what got me thinking was my disordered eating, did it ever turn into like a place of eating disorder? And when at 40 years old, I'm still struggling like to eat well and take care of myself and throw away those perceptions of childhood, there's something so prevalent within each and every one of us. And I'm so grateful that I live in a lens of Jewish wisdom that I can say, wait a second, what's the difference between the lies that I'm telling myself and the truth that I'm telling myself? Because all around us, we're inundated with these lies that I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to be less, or I need to be more, whatever it is. And it's just so important that we get in touch and in real with what we really are. Yes, we have to be physically beautiful. Torah tells us we have to be, Judaism tells us we have to be attractive, not necessarily just attracting. What does it mean for each and every one of us to be attractive? And we have to take care. We have to take care of these bodies of ours. But it's so easy for us to go back to that young child or that young teenager, and still, even women, even today, we know, ladies, come on, we can't say because we're, Torah observant women that necessarily like, oh, we have no issues with our diets. Or we
No, not at all. I'm going to tell you, you're absolutely right. I was thinking about how, they always say you can walk into a perfume shop, but even if you don't buy perfume, you're going to still walk out stinking like perfume. If you live in any, I don't know if it's a Western civilization, or you just live in a place where people speak the same language as you, and you are going to be inundated on average with 250 advertisements in one day, whether it's through the billboards that you pass on the highway, and these messages are going to be embedded within your psyche, whether you like it or not. And the question is, and I think this is one of the things I'd love to be able to transition to, is like, it's so easy to be able to talk about the problems. I'll be honest with you. And truth be told, I wonder how many people who's watching right now doesn't already know everything that we're saying so far. They know it. They know that there's a problem. The question is there a solution that they could tap into? Is there something that we can discuss that will like bring them to the point where they could say, okay, I have the tools to fight this?
1 second. I just have to welcome Jenny. Jenny, thank you for Jenny just told us all that we're all very amazing, real, special, and inspirational women, and great looking women too. So thank you, Jenny, for your chat.
Thank you, Jenny.
Hello to Sandra Durback, my mother. Who's like the biggest fan on here every week, the cutest lady. So
Can I tell you something real quickly? You said about your mother.
Yeah.
So I studied in Israel for a year. I was so grateful to have that time. And it's not a secret that when you go to Israel, because of the delicious rugelach and pizza that's available on every corner, it's possible you might come back to a few extra pounds heavier. I naturally am a thinner build. When I came back from Israel, I was no less than 17 pounds heavy. So now you can figure out my BMI, or 5'1", 75 towers, smaller build. It means it was very obvious that I had ballooned a little bit. Do you know what, mother, may she rest in peace, who loved me unconditionally, never once mentioned anything about my looks or my weight my entire life? I came home and I said, Mom, you know what? It's so strange. All my clothing shrunk in the washing machines in Israel. Even the things I didn't even wash shrunk in the washing machine.
Now you just said it. Like you didn't.
First time in your life you gained weight? Like you really didn't know what happened?
I didn't know I had no idea. And you know what my mother said to me? As a mother, I would have said, you know what? It's okay, sweetheart. You put on a few pounds, it'll drop off. That's what I would have said as a mother. She looked at him and she said, that's strange. We have to take you shopping. And that was it.
That is incredible.
That's amazing. So, wow, that's so inspiring.
Amazing.
I think that in general, we often encourage within our daughters, with our sisters, with our friends, even our mothers and our bubbies, we encourage this notion of, physical attraction gives more value to a person by saying things like, Yafa, wow, you lost so much weight. Applaud to you because you were not as valuable before. Or we say things like, you are so beautiful. Your eyes are so, not to say that it's wrong to give these compliments. The question is, are we defining the other person? Are we calling too much attention to it and not saying things like, I really appreciate the way you treat other people in your life. And I think that's the most beautiful feature within you.
Thank you for bringing up. That's that is such an important point, right? We need to look at the qualities, especially in society. If I'm asking men to define women by their personalities, by their attributes, their character, attributes, we ourselves, within ourselves, have to be saying all the time, wow, Jackie, it's so amazing how you're able to teach people about spirituality. Yeah, it's so amazing how you're able to give humor. Oh, actually, I think this is a perfect little connection here. Yafa, it's so amazing that you're able to provide humorous examples of the weekly Torah portion to all your Instagram followers. And it just so happens, I'd like to show one of your videos that apply to this very week. Do you think we can make that happen?
Go. So I just spent the whole week trying to detox from all the carbs and sugar that I've eaten over Yantef. And I went on this healthy eating frenzy, like I will only eat healthy food from now on, until it hit me that the very first parsha after Yantef, Adam eats an apple. And he pretty much destroyed humanity. We may have still been in Gan Eden had he eaten a babka. Guys, this is a direct message from above. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah, but didn't that go viral?
It did, yeah.
Okay, so
I was so happy people related to that.
Set it up for us a little bit. What did you do there?
Well, I think people are, again, there's this toxicity in our culture and our society about dieting and weight loss, and that is the ultimate, and everybody goes on these extreme cleanses and these extreme diets. And So I was kind of, just bringing in a little humor to help us understand that, look, hey, eating an apple destroyed the world, you guys. That's not going to save you. That's not the ideal over here. You're allowed to have a piece of babka. Nothing is going to happen, right? And this really brings back to like the what I understand Judaism,
right? Just to give the history to it. That was right after Rosh Hashanah.
After Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot.
Yes. And then it was Parsha Bereshit. It was the first Bereshit. It was the first Torah portion of the year. So we had for 2 weeks. And then the first Torah portion, Adam eats an apple.
Exactly.
It goes downhill.
So and everything went downhill from there. So I just made it into a joke that, hello, you don't have to eat an apple. It's not, it's not about going detoxing physically. Everything, and this really, goes back again, full circle about how Judaism is really all about balance. It's about maintaining whatever.
I was going to say how you were saying that Judaism is all about balance. And I think it's really interesting that Judaism is like quite obsessed with food, and it doesn't seem balanced at all. Like, let's talk about food for a second. Anything in the world that has enormous potential for connection and good has equal potential for disconnection and bad. I think food is a great example for that. Like, let's look at all the food references. You mentioned one, right? Adam and Eve get expelled from the garden because of forbidden fruit. And then Cain kills Abel also because of a food offering. Then you walk all the way down. If you follow the narrative that takes you through the Torah between Jacob and Esav and a lentil soup, and then Egypt, we have matzah, and then we have, if we go even deeper, we have Israel, milk and honey. Hanukkah, we have fried foods to remember the war. I mean, like, you can't get more obsessed with food than Jewish tradition and culture. Why?
You know what Jewish holidays are all about?
Yep.
It's like to tell us, we won. Come, let's go eat. Every Jewish holiday.
It's not an accident, though. It's not an accident.
Right.
So how do we create that balance, ladies? And how do we create that for our daughters? Now, most of our viewers tonight won't, like our students, our college students, our young professionals don't necessarily have children, but hopefully one day they will have children, but within each and every one of us is that child that is still screaming out, I'm good enough, I'm pretty enough, I'm beautiful enough. So how do we create that balance? Before you answer that, let's bring up our next slide and hear a little bit from Slova Youngrice about what she says. One of the greatest life lessons we teach our daughters is that their self-worth is based on the unique role they play in this universe of ours. Looks can come and go. Attractiveness is based on the perceptions of others and has nothing to do with greatness of character or effort to accomplish and create goodness. Slova Youngrice Wolf, raising a child with a soul. Ladies, tell me what you think of that, and how can we let the child within us, that message resonate within the child within us, that I am good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm beautiful enough. And as a result of being enough, Jackie, I'm coming to you. As a result of being enough, I have a desire to take care of this body of mine. Jackie, tell us what you think.
This is the exact idea that we've talked about in the past, even other shows, but the idea, how I see it at least, is of the body and the soul and that relationship. And the body is obviously a very obvious creation, and the soul is also a creation. And these two creations are interwoven into one being, which is us, for the whole of our lifetime, and then they're separated at death, right? And they go their separate ways. But they're two separate entities that have different profiles and different needs and wants and desires, and their goal is to live in connection with that connection within yourself, from your soul to your body. And it says that the Torah says that the soul is like a parent, a loving parent. If you're connected to your soul in the right way, it's like that's where the corrective, passionate, loving self-care, the yearning for self-care that's come up in the society today, like, self-care has become this buzzword because there's a recognition that I need to take care of myself. But that recognition is from the soul, right? Like seeing the deeper qualities in someone is like seeing their soul essence and not just the physicality. Yet the body, we know, is a gift. And we say my body, as I mentioned before. So we know that the body is an object of something else, of the soul, right? And the soul is there to take care of the body. So if everything is working the right way and healthy, it becomes this beautiful relationship between the body and the soul being the parent, and the body is just like a child. How is the body like a child? It wants what feels good. It wants what tastes good. It's about the here and now. It's about comfort. It's about entertainment and like Netflix. And I want to be comfy and I want to have yummy things, or I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. It's all about the physicality in this world, which is not bad, but it's just limited if we let it sort of run the show. And so the goal is not to eliminate it and say, oh, to heck with it, I don't care about it, or to go the other extreme, let me obsess about it. The answer of always is that balance, that middle way of let me take care of myself. Let me include these things that I need to do for myself so that I feel optimally healthy and my full potential, so that I can then continue on my bigger purpose in life. And I think what's missing is that connection, and people are starting to feel that there's got to be more. There's got to be more to life.
Jackie, I have to be honest with you. It's so easy to say it, but you're so right. Everything that you said is so true. But like research says that we live in a society where attractive people have obvious and significant advantages over people who are less attractive. Attractive children get higher grades in school by their teachers. They're favored by their teachers. Attractive applicants have an easier time getting a job. There's a massive bias for beauty, and either consciously or subconsciously, we all know that. And I feel like we're in this race to be able to get to the finish line of joy and happiness in our life, and we're subscribing to it. And maybe I'm just speaking from a place where I feel that this is a constant battle for myself. And I'm telling you, I'm 38 years old, so I'm edging scarily close to 40 years old. And I do know that that's the point in time where we start to take significant steps in trying to reverse our aging so that we don't look, God forbid, that we actually have wisdom and experience. I'm challenging you because it's so easy to talk about this duality that we live within. The question is, what's the solution that we can all take home for ourselves so we have healthy self-body images and really subscribe to what you're saying, like a myth.
Well, I think we need to learn ways to feed our soul. Like we need to learn, because if you don't feed the soul, right? If you don't feed the soul, then for sure you're not going to identify with the soul. For sure you're not going to feel the soul. For sure it's not even in the picture half the time.
Yes, I think that's true. I think it must be, and I'm making this up as I go along. It must be like a seesaw, that the more you feed the soul, the more you will define yourself by your soul. And the more you feed the body, not to say food, healthy food, all that, but the more you focus on just the externality and neglecting the function of what this body and face and hands and feet and what it's all supposed to be serving, what utensil it serves, right? The more you feed it or objectify yourself, then the more I think it is something that becomes prominent in your psyche and your self-definition. And ultimately has to do with what domain do you choose to feed? It's possible. And the question is, how do we feed our soul more? Yes, by learning, I understand.
Well, how do you feed your soul, Adina?
You know, I was thinking about, it's easy for me to say because I teach Torah for a living, right? So you think like, oh, she must feed her soul every single day. And the truth is, that I don't think it hasn't become enough for me, like to feed my soul. Yes, learning Torah is something that has inspired me on a regular basis. But I've worked really hard to develop a better relationship with food, because ultimately food is meant to be, and that's why Jews are so obsessed with it. It's meant to be a connecting force, a strong bond that we can create. If you think about it, as soon as you put like a bowl of chips and salsa on the table, everybody starts to gravitate towards the food and they bond over food with each other. But it's not an accident that food is essentially, if you take out the entire multi-billion-dollar food industry, if you strip down all of the veils that cover, food is essentially the glue between the body and the soul. It's such a holy thing. Yeah. It was not an accident that God created 2,000 species of just apples. And now you can multiply that by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of different species of fruits and vegetables and fish and plants and meats. I mean, it's the plethora of pleasures in that world. And the first commandment in the Torah before Adam was told not to eat from the tree, he was first told to eat from everything of the garden, to just enjoy, love this world. And I've used it on a daily basis to be able to say a blessing before you eat or drink. I don't know if this is necessarily the best thing that I would recommend to everybody, But because I'm a grandchild of 4 Holocaust survivors, and because I've taken so many trips to Poland, I really understand I understand starvation just from studying it. God forbid, not from personal understanding. So I never really will. But to be able to just tap into that moment for a second and feeling like what it was like to not be able to have food or drink and desperately want it and need it, and your soul and body yearning and clinging, desperately holding on to life, and then to be able to just pick up a seltzer. It's green, so you won't be able to see it.
You're like a ghost bottle.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what it is. It's Kirkland's water, and it's lime flavored. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. On a
Wait, Adina, what do you mean it's the glue between the body and the soul? Can you say, like, what do you mean? You just said, oh, it's the glue between body and soul.
Let me tell you. Okay, so I want to just analyze one part of the body, if that's okay, from a Kabbalistic perspective. Take, like, let's say the mouth. The mouth is a very unique organ in a sense that it serves so many essential functions. If I were God and I were creating...
Adina, wait one second. I kept getting cut out, and I feel like what you're saying is so important. Could you please just, like, backtrack 1 second, because my wonderful internet was not working. What are you talking about? Because it sounds so exciting.
We were talking about developing a healthier relationship to food. And Jackie asked me, what do you mean that food is the glue between the body and the soul?
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to analyze one particular organ in the body. I find this to be incredibly fascinating. If you look at this mouth, right? It's essentially very dysfunctional because I can't eat while I drink and breathe and speak at the same time. There's so many things that the mouth does. It has 4 separate functions. Unlike most organs in the body would have like one primary function, then maybe one secondary function. The mouth has 4 very primary functions. What are they? Speaking, eating, breathing, and kissing. Those 4 functions all have a thread that tie them together that are pretty much into a bow, that they're connected at its core, that the mouth is the organ of connection. Essentially, we take our breath through our mouth because that connects us to the higher levels of our soul, which are God, right? That's why the first infusion of soul was called the Nishimat Hashem, was the breath of God. And that's why that mouth is such an essential thing. That's why, and Jackie, you'll like this because you're into mindfulness. So you're probably into breathing. They tell you if you need to calm down, center yourself. What do? Take a deep breath in and then breathe out. That it creates a sense of clarity and godliness to you. Food is the glue or the connection between body and soul. Speech is the connection between soul and many different people all around the world. I could speak to billions if I wanted to, each of them equally connecting to me at the same time. And a kiss is the connection of 2 souls in an intimate way. There's so much room for connection. If we look at food as a deep, a profound way that you can connect to God, to your soul, and say a blessing beforehand, a blessing afterwards, just to be able to be mindful of this beautiful world that God gave you in order to give you energy to continue going. I hope, and I think it was always meant to be, that the blessings that we have or the mindfulness that we can infuse within our eating experiences can battle that which we are facing today in terms of our unhealthy eating that we see. There's only a certain amount of room in our head. That's the truth. And if we fill it with the positive thoughts, I can imagine that the negative ones will just have no place to go.
So Adina, for our beginner viewers, tell us, is there really a blessing for everything?
Yeah, everything. One of my favorite ones is the blessing that we say when we go to the bathroom, because I think they were probably one of the only groups of people that they're so obsessed with mindfulness and connection that we even say it as we exit a bathroom. But yes, we're supposed to say a blessing before we pick up food. And there's an app actually that you can download that will tell you the blessings that you can say on different types of food. There are different categories of blessings so that you can put even more mindfulness into it in terms of where the food comes from. How many people, actually my son told me, he said, on average, over 100,000 people contributed to you just eating a slice of bread. Because it's not only the actual bread that's on your table, it's whoever planted the wheat, whoever harvested the wheat, it's whoever provided the electricity in the building of the people who are making the bread for you. Over 100,000 people contributed.
Amazing. So,
It's
I
amazing.
just want to add in. Can I add in something to what Adina said? Okay, just because I completely agree. I was thinking the same thing about how food really is that connector, and I love how you explained it all. And I wanted to add into that is that I think that we sometimes think that our goal in life is for the body and soul to fight against each other. You know, we have like the positive inclination and the negative inclination, known in Hebrew as the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, which really is sorry, my couch is moving. Really and that really, those are symbolic. The evil inclination, symbolic of the body, because it's, you know, kind of leads to negative. The good inclination, the connection to the soul. This is a longer discussion, but I think that many people think that our goal in life is to conquer the evil inclination, and we have to get on top of it, and we have to knock it down and only live with the positive inclination. And really, really, it's not like that. When it comes to the body and soul, and when it comes to things that have the potential for negative or the potential for positive, the goal is really to connect the two and for them to live together in harmony. And I like to look at the relationship between the body and soul as conjoined twins or Siamese twins, however you know them, right? But these are people, they're two separate people that have to live together, connected forever. And they have different goals, and they have different desires, and they have different needs. Could you imagine? I sometimes think about Siamese twins or conjoined twins. Like, one of them has to go to the bathroom, but the other doesn't. And they both go to the bathroom anyway, you know? When they
synergy, right? Like,
yeah,
they have synergistic existence.
They have to learn to coexist. They have to learn to coexist and to become friends. And this is what we do. We have to always make the body our friend. Hashem, why do we have all this food? Why is Judaism all about the food? Hashem gave it to us to enjoy. We're supposed to be enjoying life. Food is supposed to be our friend. But with everything in life, there has to be a balance. Here we get back to the balance. What's my intention? How am I relating to the food? How am I relating to everything in life? And this is, I think, how, you know, just to kind of, I just wanted to add that in, that our goal really is to live in harmony.
Perfect for our closing. And Jackie is going to lead us into our challenge for this week.
Yeah. So before we go into the challenge, I just have one of my favorite quotes that I want to share, which is, the biggest power a woman has is being willing to disappoint another, which is the fact that so much of what we do, especially relating to body image, is about somehow acceptance and approval, which is understandable. As Adina said, it's everywhere. And that is part of what drives us. However, once you reclaim that back and say, you know what, it's okay if people are disappointed in me. I'm not going to be disappointed in me, or I'm going to define myself by something deeper and see my own depth. Once you start to do that for real, people start to see it in you too. Mm-hmm. So even though society is driven that way, Adina, and it's very easy for us to sit here and say that, and then in reality, there are real hard stats around that. But once you value yourself more deeply and you start to see in yourself that depth, and you say, you know what, if they're really going to be if I have such superficial friends that they're judging me based on the fact that I gained 5-10 pounds, like, right, what do I need that for? Like, they can be disappointed in me. So the biggest power I have as a woman is being okay with other people judging me or being disappointed. And when you meet someone like that, I remember meeting people like that and thinking, wow, I admire you. I want to be like that. I want to have such clarity and such connection to myself and depth that I really don't care. And when you do that, ironically, you'll attract other people to you like that. So you could the most empowering thing, I think, is the idea that we can choose. We can choose how we define ourselves. And when we do that, we'll manifest, as the hit word of the time right now is manifesting. We'll manifest that life differently. So if you're around superficial and very external friends right now, when you shift, you'll shift your life, and your life will draw other people to you. And I just think that's a really empowering idea to end off with, that we have a choice, and our choice will change our world. So on that note, as one of the first movements out into the week, as a soul challenge, I think that let's start to change that. Let's start to make a choice of viewing ourselves from love and from care, from that soul place of self-care, and like an adult parent caring for the body. So rather than look at your body and say, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, and I've got to stop what I'm eating because I'm so fat, which is like a place of hate or a place of judgment. Let's choose something this week, all of us and everyone watching, and we'll continue the conversation in the Facebook group, because that's where we're going to post the Soul Challenge and have a discussion. What can we do this week that will be an action of love and care for our body, rather than that hate and judgment and criticism and nitpicking and all of that? Like, what's one thing? So for some people it might be, I do have to eat less because I'm not really caring enough about my body, I'm eating too much junk. But for other people it might be, I'm not going to care so much about junk this week, I'm going to be more compassionate and nurturing. So it could be the exact opposite two things for two different people, based on where your intention's at and based on how you feel about yourself. But like, what's one thing you can do this week that's from a place of love and care for your body, to show love to your body?
So what is one caring act that you can do to show your body love? When you're thinking about that, thank you. We can let's discuss it quickly, ladies, and then we are going to tie it up and say goodbye for this week. But when you're thinking about that, you have to understand that taking care of your body, every time you drink extra water, every time you exercise, every time you choose to even shower, to get dressed beautifully, to eat well, to prepare yourself a meal, it is a mitzvah. A mitzvah, even though we define it often as a good deed or a commandment, is connected to the word tetzaveh, which is to form a connection. That word mitzvah, as we understand it, is the understanding of an act that I do that connects me to something greater than just the here and now. It connects me to God. It connects me to another. And ultimately, it connects me to my higher self. Let's all take this week as an opportunity to connect to the best version of ourselves, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, and really look into what we can do to elevate the physical and make it into an act of spiritual connection. Wishing you all a wonderful week. It was so good to see you again. Adina, Jackie, Yafa, thank you so much. Maybe next week I'll get the right fashion line with you. We can maybe coordinate beforehand. But until then, everybody, thank you so much, and really enjoying spending this time with you.
Don't forget to join the Facebook group under Souled, SOULED. We continue the conversation over there.
Signing off for another week of Souled Live and Real. Keep it real, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.